musician KK Fosu made this point that weed should be legalized. What's your take on this?
I think a lot of education is needed, right? Because sometimes when you just say it bluntly like that, certain people feel like, hey, because, me, I have dreadlocks now. So it's like when you talk about it, then it's almost as if, because you have dreadlocks, you want ganja to be legalized. You know what I mean? But quite frankly, what I think we need, apart from the advocacy for decriminalization of the plant, what we need is a lot of education within our system. I have advocated in times past that why don't we open up our educational system, for example, for the kids to be able to debate about these things in their schools. When I was in school, those times they would ask us to go and search on some topics. For example, Kwame Nkrumah's statement about the fact that Ghana's independence is meaningless unless it's linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. This was something that we were asked to go and research on and debate against and for. Why can't we do the same for marijuana?
So we should investigate the benefits of the marijuana.
It is long overdue. I think the powers that be, we should be able to get to that point where the Ministry of Education, for example, can drive this whole thing. That, listen, let's open the debate up for the kids in the schools to go and research and come and debate on it, for and against, right? If you do that consistently for about a year, 2 or 3, we'll get to a point where the generation coming after us will be so knowledgeable about the plant. People talk about the fact that it's a drug. In our statute books, it's been labeled as a drug. And quite frankly, I do not understand, This, of course, do you know I was suffering from hemorrhages, something that had troubled me for about 2 years. If not for ganja, I won't be standing here talking to you today, right? And I do not shy away from saying this, me, I'm not a hypocrite, It doesn't mean that I would also advocate that everybody, I know some blood groups, when you give them the plant, they'll be all over the place. For example. But apart from that, it has serious medicinal benefits. Apart from that, it's proven to have a certain economic alternative, right? Of course. It's big business out there. In places where this plant has been legalized, there's a big industry out there. I've seen marijuana inhalers and all of that. Why can't we get to that point where, let's even start from our schools, get the kids to debate about it, give us a year or 2, right? And then let's see where we'll get to, sometime 4 months ago, NACOP impounded a certain truck in Asasewa. One big Kia truck full of consignment. And when they valued it, they said the street value of the consignment was 500,000 Ghana. I said, that's $500,000. One Kia truck. So if you have 2 Kia trucks, that's $1 million. By the time you get trailers and warehouses. It's not just for the fun of it, but this plant has proven to have a certain economic alternative, right? In certain places, there are records to show, to prove. So I really do not know why in 2018 we are still talking about, do you think we should legalize this thing? Well, it's Ghana, but I hope that we'll get to a point. I really hope that we'll get to a point where this thing will be made a national debate, so that around the country, people are debating about this thing, not out of, arrogance or anything, but just from the perspective of wanting to know what this thing entails and why is it that this thing that grows in the soil like any other plant does has been labeled a drug by the statute books and all of those things. There's a reason for it, I had my own misperceptions about it, right? This was prior to when I got into contact with it. But after I experienced it and the way it dealt with me and the fact that I stand here and I can testify to the fact that this plant healed me of something that I was suffering from for almost 2 years. Right. I cannot stand anywhere and demonize the plant. You know what I mean?
You know what? People who have had experience with this weed say that they are high and so they are doing whatever they are doing under the influence of this weed. And some people go mad taking it. So how do you take this?
It's never been scientifically proven by any medical person or institution that weed has made anybody mad. You can find out. Anybody who claims to have gotten mad, I'm coming. Anybody who has gotten mad or who claims to have gotten mad out of smoking weed, check the person properly. Some of them add certain things to it, inject themselves with some heroin and things like that. And then they'll finish and come and blame the plant. See, when I first came into contact with it, when I first experienced it, it gave me that feeling of paranoia, right? And quite frankly, after that experience, I didn't even have the courage to try it again for almost 2 years until my condition made me go back to it. And somebody told me that this thing is a painkiller because I had shared my story with this person and the person said, no, try this, it's a painkiller. Painkiller. So when I was taking it, I was only taking it to just, to soothe my pain. And then in about a week and 2 or 3 days, the thing just disappeared, right? So now, I realized that, okay, so this is a feeling of paranoia that certain people interpret as obodam. You know, anybody who has had an experience of marijuana before has had that kind of an experience. But if they will be honest with you, they will tell you that that experience is just a one-time experience, right? That's why the plant is very special. Okay, it is not like your contumely or your. It's a very special plant. I think it's a very divine plant because it would introduce you to himself or to itself that way. And then when you're able to sustain it, then it's like, okay, wow, you know. I mean, when I was growing up, I heard of things said about people with dreadlocks and the misrepresentation, you know. I must admit, it isn't everybody who has had the time and the trouble to go into it to find out what it is, the pros, the cons, and all that, you know, which is why I'm still getting back to the initial point I made about the education. Because if people are educated about this, then they would know that all these things are misperceptions. Weed doesn't make anybody mad. If you've had any record of anybody who has gotten mad, proven medically mad by marijuana, please share the story. Let's all know. Because as far as I've read and as far as I know, marijuana hasn't made anybody mad yet. So let's see. Maybe next year it will make somebody mad.